Good evening, everyone. Welcome. We'll start again as usual, first with the praise to Manjushri, followed by refuge, and then the Heart Sutra. I pay homage to Guru and Lord Arya Manjushri. Your intelligence shines forth like the sun, unclouded by the two obscurations. You hold the scripture text in your heart, symbolic of the seeing of all things as they are. Those who are caught in the prison of samsara are confused in the darkness of ignorance and are overwhelmed by their sufferings. In 60 ways you teach migratory beings to whom you are compassionate as the only child. Your proclamation of Dharma is like roaring thunder, which awakens beings from the stupor of delusions, free us from the iron chains of our karma. You are the sword of wisdom, hewing down suffering wherever its sprouts appear, clearing away the darkness of ignorance, primordially pure. Your princely body is embodiment of the perfection of Bodhisattva, dwelling on ten bhumi. I pay homage to Manjushri, dispel my ignorance, as bodies adorned with 112 marks of a Buddha. With the brilliance of wisdom or compassion of one, illumine the darkness enclosed in my mind, enlighten my intelligence, wisdom, so that I may gain insight into Buddha's who takes they explain them. In Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, I take refuge until enlightenment reach. By the merit of listening to this teaching, may I add Buddha for the sake of all living beings. In Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, I take refuge until enlightenment reach. By the merit of listening to teaching, may I attain Buddha for the sake of all living beings. In Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, I take refuge until enlightenment reach. By the merit of listening to teaching, may I attain Buddha for the sake of all living beings. May all living beings have happiness and cause of happiness. May all living beings be free from sorrow and the cause of sorrow. May all living beings not be severed from the bliss that is sorrowless. May all living beings live attachment, hatred, towards near one's by far, by living with equanimity. May all living beings have happiness and cause of happiness. May all living beings be free from sorrow and cause. May all living beings not be severed from the bliss that is soulless. May all living beings live attached, hatred, towards near and far, by living with equanimity. May all living beings have happiness and cause of happiness. May all living beings be free from suffering cause. May all living beings not be severed from the bliss that is soulless. May all living beings live attachment, hatred, towards near ones by far, by living with equanimity. To the perfection of wisdom, blessed Mother, I pay homage. Thus I have heard at one time. Blessed One Bhagavan was dwelling in Rajgir on Vulture Peak, together with the great assembly of Sangha and the great assembly of Bodhisattva. At that time, Blessed One was absorbed in Samadhi and the enumeration of phenomena called the profound illumination. Also at that time, the Bodhisattva Master, the superior Avalokiteshvara, was contemplating on the meaning of profound perfection of wisdom, so that the five aggregates are empty of inherent existence. And then, through the power of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said this to the Bodhisattva Master, the superior Avalokiteshvara: how should a son or daughter of good lineage train who practice profound perfection of wisdom? Thus he spoke, the Bodhisattva, the Mahasattva, Subhadra Avalokiteshvara, said this to Venerable Shariputra. Shariputra, whatever son or daughter of good lineage wishes practice profound perfection of wisdom should view in this way. They should correctly view those five aggregates also empty of inherent existence. Form is emptiness, emptiness is form. Empty is not other than form. Form is not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, composition factors, or consciousness are empty. Shariputra, in the same way, all phenomena are merely empty, that is without characters. They do not create it, they do not cease, they have no impurity, they are not devoid, they do not decrease, increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no composition factor. Consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no smell, no taste, no touch, no phenomena. There is no element so forth up to mind element, also up to element of mental consciousness. There is no ignorance, no exhaustion, no aging and death, no exhaustion, aging and death. In the same way, there is no suffering, no origin, no cessation, no exalted wisdom, no attainment, also no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, because bodhisattvas have no attainment, they depend on, abide in perfection of wisdom. Because their minds are without obstruction, they are without fear. Having completely passed beyond all error, they go to the completion thereof. All the Buddhas abide in 3 times, having relied on the perfection of wisdom, became manifestly perfect Buddhas in the state unsurpassed, perfect and complete in light. Therefore, the mantra of perfection of wisdom is the mantra of great knowledge. The unsurpassed mantra, a mantra equal to the unequal, the mantra that thoroughly passes away all suffering. Because it is not false, it should be known as the truth. Mantra of perfection of wisdom is proclaimed. Tadyatam gade gade bara zangade bodhiso Shariputra bodhisattva mahasattva shipren. Oh, sorry, we did a bit more. Tadyam gade gade bara zangade bodhiso bara zangade bara zangade Shariputra bodhisattva mahasattva should that way. Then the Blessed One arose from the Samadhi and said to the bodhisattva mahasattva, Superior Lokatasha, well done, well done, well done. One of good lineage it is just. One of good lineage is like that. The profound perfection should be practiced just as you have taught it. Even the Tathagatas will rejoice in this. The Blessed One, having so spoken, Venerable Shariputra, Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, Superior. All those gathered there, those who were gods, amid gods. Gandhara was filled with admiration and praised the words of the Blessed One. So as you know now, tonight we are in the last part of Nagarjuna's garland, this Precious Garland, very important writing that he sent to his friend King Gautamiputra. And so now he's finishing off with the 5th and last chapter by telling the merit that there was and there is in his writing, and this king in the king's receiving, and if he took up any of these advices, how much the merit there was. So it's encouraging him that whatever time and energy that the king may have required more than he was probably planning to, he should not think of that as some ordinary passage of time, but a valuable time that one has given to listening and contemplating, and then therefore finding various better ways to deal and do things in life. So this also very much relates to us, because we have been going through this with quite a few terms, nearly 4 terms or more. I don't know. We lost track of it. But it's good that you all have diligently attending these things, and we have amazing karmic bond to give each other the time to spend time in listening to the ancient wisdom that Nagarjuna wrote, a relevant point of relevance to his friend king, and we are trying to interpret that in our midst life situations. So this kind of attentiveness that we give has enormous merit. Because if one's faith and pure perception allows, this is no different to listening to teaching from the Buddha himself. Nagarjuna has his great confidence in portraying that image to his friend king, and we should therefore take up the joy and the merit that there is, not necessarily sometimes joyful on the occasion, but overall thinking of how differently can we spend a couple of hours night each week. There are many nights in people's life, but quite a lot of the time we really have nothing much to show, So other times are taken up by worldly, unfinishable chores of the duties of life. Not that they are meaningless, but they sometimes we wish we have to do less of them. But I don't think we ever think like that when we do Dharma. We always feel, oh, this is good. So, and that makes me my own little effort feel rewarding, because it's so easy to get lost and confused and in the worldly demands and activities, whether it's demands that those who are near and dear to us place on us, or we ourselves go and seek them, each of those outings, each of those goings, each of these we do definitely consumes our energy and time and resources and so on, some more meaningfully than others. Some are things we have to do because we have responsibility to our young or elderly or loved ones. People who are otherwise don't have anything to do, they cannot go anywhere, they're stuck on a bed or they're stuck on a chair for the rest of the evening. They can't go to bed early because they can't go to sleep that long. That's a lot of hours to sleep if you haven't got much to do. Either you're going to sleep during the day or night. A lot of them do the sleeping during the day. People hardly got much to keep themselves amused. But people who have listened to the Dharma and understand, and you wouldn't believe when you're in your senior age, you will really find it so enticing, useful. So the merit that Nagarjuna is talking here, it should be made, should be personalized, and we need to thank ourselves. So let's move on to this. He says, if the merit of saying this had form, it would never fit into the realms of worlds as numerous as the sand grains of the Ganges. So he's encouraging the king Gautamiputra that this, he says, if this is the merit of him writing and then the king receiving, this is, he was, of course, omniscient. He knew the merit wouldn't be just between him and this person who's receiving this. How many people studied this? How many people read this? How many people analyzed this? That's according to Jeffrey Hopkins. He analyzed, translated, and edited. So this is in this like this is like in 20th century, and then prior to that, when the Sanskrit text was translated into Tibetan did that, analyzed, translated, and edited, and carved on wood every syllable. By the way, carved on wood every syllable, and then compiled together all Nagarjuna writings so that they don't get lost. Merit, he's talking that there wouldn't be enough room to accommodate the merit for the good and benefit that this work has done. So would never fit into realms. So where does it fit? So if there is such a physical merit doesn't fit, then where does it fit? The mind. The mind is hungry and thirsty and empty. Most people's mind is very empty. There isn't much there. So, but mind can really accommodate this and relish this and reason this, and therefore he's saying to the king that the time that you gave to listen and read this will greatly benefit. So therefore, he's talking about the enormous merit, and. Then Nagarjuna asks, he says, "Are you making this up because you said it, you wrote it, and therefore you're praising your work?" He said, "No, the supermundane victor, meaning the fully enlightened one, said so. And the meaning of this, the limitless of the merit, wishing to help limitless realms of sentient beings is like limitlessness of those beings." Because the contents, particularly this last chapter, was all about how a bodhisattva should go out of his way to tame and benefit and mature other sentient beings. So because of that, how to conceive the bodhicitta, how to conceive the altruism, and how to practice loving kindness and compassion. If this kind of knowledge get transmitted to every single sentient being, and a kind of allaying of the suffering and sorrow that beings have due to selfishness will all be allayed. No medicine can do that. No wealth can do that. No friends can do that. No great material achievement can do that. It's only a mental constitution called through the Dharma that this can do that. That's why enlightenment has said, with the reason how meritorious it is. So therefore, he convinces the king that this I'm not just praising because I wrote it. He says this is said by the Buddha. So this being the case, he says, now comes the main concluding part of the text. And the conclusion says, these practices that I have explained briefly to you, well, I don't know how brief that it is, briefly to you in this way, should be as dear to you as your body always is. So he's encouraging the king that treasure this as dear and precious as your own eyes or your own body is. You always guarded your eyes. When people need something for their body, you wouldn't know how great length they go to. They go to get their eyes, or they got their teeth sorted out, or a little whatever, wheelchair, or whatever. If they need something for the body, people wouldn't mind even what it would require. He says, well, just treat these teachings as dear and precious as any of your parts or whole body is dear to you. He says, then you have not only heeded to you because the merit of this will starting to really benefit to you. And this is just because the work is concluding, he is trying to inspire him how to go about integrating this into his life. Observe these, observe this into four practices, into these practices that I mentioned below. How dear the practices are to us. Usually, most of the time, we don't know how to make practice dearer than the body. Body takes over. Body is more important than practice. When the body suffers, practice has to wait. Practice has to be considered later. So it doesn't mean, of course, that you enslave the body masochistically to suffer to do this practice. Doesn't mean that. Just as you
carefully look after the body, also look after these practices. These may not look like the body that you can feel it, but once you have really earned the respect and understanding of these texts, then you will know how dear they are. Because your body is only good for you, but this is good for everyone that is dear to you. Because even if your body is dear to you, it might often become cause of conflict with other people. But if you're dear to the teaching, then the other people's body is dear as your body. So therefore, it will help you to be dear and kind to other living beings. Those who feel a dearness for the practices have in fact a dearness for the body. Then you will definitely look after the body dearer than that previously thought you are being dear to the body. Previously, maybe you're just a slave to your body. Maybe the body doesn't really think, oh, I don't need this, but he keeps doing this to me. He doesn't use me for what he actually got for me. When you really know how dear these teachings are, then you're going to use the body more dearly than previously you knew, because then you wouldn't waste the body for mundane, worldly activities. You will instead conserve the bodily energy, because it's much more dearer to use the body for high purposes and good purposes. Otherwise, we only do the body for worldly things. But when it comes to doing practice, we don't want to put it. We don't want to put the body at the disposal of the practice, because we think body is more dear than the practice. When the practice is dear, then the body becomes even more useful. Then it becomes a tool. Otherwise, body becomes an obstacle. Isn't it? When the body becomes an obstacle, they say, I can't do it, because the body failed them. If dearness for the body helps it, the practice will do just that, because you are able to pay a greater care to your body, attention, mainly because so that this becomes a useful vehicle to practice it, Not that you become so much a slave to the body that it now becomes sort of impedes your ability to practice in the body, So you wouldn't use the body for certain things. Is it because you're not willing to? Is it because you're afraid of the back or the knee or what are you trying to preserve? And so if the practice says do such and such things with the body, what is it? What is it that the body isn't quite being utilized for? It's being fed, it's been washed, it's been clothed, it has been prepared for something. It is only prepared maybe for the inevitable burial, maybe. So otherwise, why you wash it, feed it, and clothe it? As if it's like training something, but never do the actual work. So if the dearness of the body helps it, yeah. If you are really dear to the body, then delegate the body to do something useful. Then practice will do just that. It's so true, because often there is priorities. When it comes to the body, people say, my body wouldn't do it. They don't realize what the body might necessarily have to do just that. Some of the physical problems are because one doesn't want to purify its own karma by doing the practice that is recommended. And so it's like an irony is that's the very thing we need, and that's the very thing we don't want to do it. Why? We are more dear to the body than the practice is, So when the practice is very high important, then the body is there. It doesn't mean you have to just you should abuse it slowly, gradually. So even if you're practicing say prostration or something, just do few regularly. If you do few regularly, then at least you are able to do them regularly. Then if you have to do a bit more, sometimes it's not too much, because you already do few regularly.
And otherwise, even to do 1 or 2, 3 or 10 or 21, which is not a lot really, the body is capable. If you really put to do it, it will run miles. I know one couple, they cycle 30 miles a day. Why? Because they believe in the fitness, and because the husband is mid-60s and wife is in her 40s, and because when the husband does so much exercise and the wife doesn't need that much, she's much fitter than she does with him, so they have good reason to do it together, But when we do the prostrations, we do it for all beings, with all beings too, and so when our practice doesn't help us to use the body more meaningfully, then practice is relegated by the body. Body is more important, So that's what it is talking about. Because the body will age. One day, definitely wouldn't be able to. Then you will really have reason why you not do. But you probably would regret then, when I was younger, I didn't do enough, even few. And no wonder, No wonder what I can do, So it's really talking about the priority of the person to the body, because when we die, the body has to be left behind, and karma of pain and sickness, how we cope or not cope when we die in illness, it's a lot to do with the karma we create in and with the body. If we have a lot of negative karma we create by the body, its likelihood is that therefore we have a lot of stuff in the body that is negative. It's hindering us from doing the good deeds. If we did not create negative karma, there wouldn't be that much kind of a resistance by the body. So the very thing the body needs is those things. And the practice says yes. And if the practice is heeded to, body will slowly have the fitness to do. Therefore, pay heed to the practice as you do to yourself, So therefore, do the practices as you do. You do things for your own body, Do things for the practice as you do everything for the body. What number of things you do for the body each day, each week, and just see how much similar kind of attention can be devoted to your practice. Maybe it is already incorporated if you employ the body to do the things. Pay heed to achievements as you do to practices. Yeah. The things you are achieving in life, things you are accomplishing in life, things you are materially accomplishing, you're really doing well, Now, where's your practice that matches that? Just match your worldly achievement with your practice. How many hours do you do or how much your significance, attention, and training for the worldly activity you do, and how much the relevant time or energy and training do you do for the practices? Why aren't you practicing achieving as much as your worldly life and material life is achieving and accomplishing? Pay heed to wisdom as do you of achievement. Yeah. So that's right. So if you whatever material achievements you have, see whether your wisdom is matching. Wisdom is matching. Everybody in their years of I would say seniority or experience, they relatively come well off or comfortable. But how are you spiritually comfortable and well off? Are you still feeling inadequate spiritually, even though materially you are okay? And often that's the case. There's a lack of that lopsidedness. One might be materially quite comfortable, but spiritually not much there. So therefore, pay heed to the wisdom that you lack, so that it actually can seeing the achievement of wisdom as dear as your worldly achievements are. Otherwise, worldly achievements are, because this is particularly relevant to the king. The king might be conquering, enemies or whatever.
but he might have annexed some neighbors, or collect more tax, or whatever, or got rid of some difficult people, or whatever. He might achieve all of that, but what are the kind of thing? What are you able to get rid of your hatred or laziness or those things? And where are your actual spiritual achievements? Because they are just as dear. I'm telling you, this practice is dear, and you should make them as dear as your body and worldly accomplishment is. Pay heed to the wise as you do with wisdom. So try to be wise, because when you go to learn a wisdom, you took great liberty to learn and read about it. Then now try to be wise in every other situation, just as you actually go to get the intellectual knowledge. Sure, intellectual knowledge is very enticing and very good. You can take notes. You know what the 5 things are, what the sequences are. You're very good. You're good at academically. But he says, what's the goodness of your academic on the things? If you now we match the wisdom. Now where's the actual wisdom that matches your kind of fitness with an aptitude for academia. Those who have qualms that it would be bad for themselves, this is talking about now under the different subheading, faults of not relying on the teachings and the teacher. So that's, of course, we have to rely on the teachings taught and penned by teachers like Nagarjuna, and therefore Nagarjuna is saying people who haven't read any useful book or like that, and then they will have no idea what their life's directions take. So those who have qualms that it would be bad for themselves if they relied on one who has purity, love, and intelligence, as well as helpful and appropriate speech, cause their own interest to be destroyed. So this is talking about those who do not have good assistance of a teacher, and then they wouldn't know. But those who have, of course, if they rely on this, the loving kindness, intelligence, purity, and helpfulness and appropriate speech, then of course, if they don't have these things, they don't know how to cull themselves or plan their own mind. Those filled with enmity or ignorance or bad mouth or whatever, one doesn't know how to plan them. Now, so he's saying that because you have been exposed to this teaching, which tells what you should adopt, which you should drop as negative, harsh habits, and by adhering to these teachings, as he said, the teachings, then you don't have the danger of the fault. So therefore, your heeding to these teachings has actually empowered you to know how to adhere to these qualities. You should know, in brief, the qualification of your spiritual friends if you are taught by those knowing contentment. So this is talking about those spiritual friends who teaches you whether they have these qualities or not. He says it's good to know what qualities they have, such as knowing contentment, and have compassion and self-discipline. So these are like 3 qualities. If you see they are not greedy and they're contented, then you could see the benefit of that. Because if you're taught by those who have no contentment, who knows how to have contentment, and then you can see that doesn't feature the greed and covetousness and wanting more for themselves does not become a feature or emphasize. And also those who have compassion, maybe not only to those suffering, maybe someone is difficult with them, maybe someone is being a harsh thing, but they do not resort to retaliation, or they do not resort to retaliation, but they either speak kindly or try to practice tolerance, having compassion. So you have to have spiritual friends who not only know the knowledge teaching, but who actually has contentment, therefore
therefore restrain the covetousness and desire, and also those who are agitated or disturbed by others or agitated, challenged, but who actually do not react and overreact to them as intolerantly, but with a compassion, try to find a way to reconcile in a very skillful and peaceful way, and therefore he or she also have their own discipline that they guard or they practice, and if you know this, then of course the influence of those will influence you, because you are witnessing something that is properly lived by the teacher, by the friends, and whoever has these things around you. If your fellow Dhamma friends are not greedy and talk of contentment and talk of compassion and also try to be compassionate, of course it's inspire each other, you know. But people study these things, but actually when it comes to difficulties, they're just so impatient, so intolerant, as they have never heard the teachings. Of course, then, you know, no hesitation to retaliate, take arms type of thing. You know, then where's the teaching gone? You know, so of course we need each other's gentleness and kindness. Not everybody is perfectly adequate. Therefore, we have to be compassionate to each other. Even knowing contentment means that we have to accept each other in some whatever level there is, and hoping things will improve. Having the hope that things will go better is really kind towards. If one is really a little bit unhappy with someone, and then straight away I can't tolerate him, you know, of course then who will he or she ever find a group or sangha or teacher or friend, and go and try somewhere else, you know, so to speak. So we have to be very gentle and have these qualities, as well as wisdom that can drive out your afflictive emotions. Meaning the teachings from the teacher has to be pertinent enough to really hit on the bullseye, they call it. You don't really like to listen to it, but it always hits straight on your erroneous zones, and you say, and it helps to drive out. You know, you couldn't drive out them themselves by yourself. You know, the teaching sort of helps you to spot them and highlight them, and then get rid of them or mend them. You know, but first you have to have someone tell you what it is. Then we have to highlight it, and then have to know and attend to it. You know. You should realize that what they teach and respect them. Yeah, what they teach. Yeah, what they teach and teaching that are taught should be. I think this respect doesn't mean you should accept them all unconditionally. You should still check how that teaching may work for you. You know, I'm sure some teachings are definitely not relevant to everybody. You know, when they say things, these people just don't like it. They just don't like it. You know. So, for instance, they say, "Oh, that your body is a nest of 36 impurities." You just say, "Oh, come on, give me a break. Don't talk about it. We know about it, but we want to listen to something else." I had people say that, you know. I said, "Please don't talk about the impurities of the body." It's only really monastic or something like that, yeah. So, but even you don't like that, just respect that maybe there is an intended teaching. We can get it, you know? And usually truth hurts, you know. Truth, body actually is very, 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 very foul. It's so we look after it so many hours every day. It just barely not oozing out. Otherwise, they say it's like cracking and oozing, like a ooze, like a saucepan. It's always. So we have to have always a little piece of paper covering it. So we have to just keep it very clean, so quickly throw away every little bin, as if we are very neat and clean.
So respect them. Realize you should respect what the teaching. Realize what they teach. What they teach is actually Buddha taught them. Oh, that's what the Buddhists taught. It's that was the main practice the monks did. And they have to do this for very, very important reasons, On a relative level, on a smaller scale, it's true for us as well. And so then you really realize that's so true, It's not question of you like or not. It's so true. Sometimes truth is not necessarily likable. Not and then respect them. You don't think they're wrong. You think they're really wise, but it's just majority of people don't have the aptitude to understand them that easily. And then you will attain supreme achievement by following this excellent system. Says Nagarjuna saying, if you once you gain these things, again, these things, it will teach you some amazing system that you didn't have. It had so much calling for you, and now it will be. So he says, now if you have heeded to all of these things that I have said was meritorious, now Nagarjuna concludes by saying that the fruit of these heeding to this practice should be manifested in your royal behavior. So he's talking about in your royal behavior, because he says, oh king, you should have these behaviors. He's not saying king doesn't have. Maybe he's already have. But just in case he doesn't, he says, now, by the way, having spoken about all the merit that I said could not even accommodate in the whole world if there was a physical form, now I should manifest in your behavior. And what are they? Speak the truth. Speak gently to sentient beings. So this is all about how to speak. Truth doesn't mean right or wrong necessarily. Dualistically saying whatever is relative to the truth, relevant to the fact. To say that everything is impermanent, Tell everything is impermanent, It's the truth. You're not. When somebody is mourning and groaning, they lost something. Just tell them everything is impermanent. And I have found they're all true. They're all true. The reason they are not coping well is because they're not wanted to accept the truth. Speak the truth in that case, and everything is impermanent. And somebody is very, very difficult to you, it's not entirely their fault. Everything is interdependent. Say that. It really helps, because usually people say, oh, it's all his fault, I'll help you to, get him, or that kind of thing. Even though you're being very loyal, you try to support them 100%. It doesn't. You should say, no, don't blame entirely yourself. Don't blame entirely to them. Everything is interdependent. It's so useful, and it helps to oneself to accept the fact that what one has contributed to, and also what other people may have contributed to, because otherwise there's a danger of us blaming either on them entirely or to oneself. Very dualistic. A lot of people, most foolish people, just get at people. That's all. And civilized people, no, they don't do that. They sabotage themselves. No, so some average foolish people and average civilized people are still deluded, But when we talk about the people who have the having merit of having read and heard these, they should tell themselves everything is interdependent, Even say convention, society says it's your fault because you hit on her, you crossed the line type of thing, as a road accident or something. Society said that. Society always have to do something like that. They never say you have nothing. So they will always say someone is responsible for that. They will say that because that's all they can do. They're not wise enough to go beyond that. They can't solve no much problem by doing other things because they have to do black and white something. That's the only way to. So So then it's good. So honor that, honor the conventional reality, because you can't go against that, because then you be exposed to even more problem. So honor that, but still on top of that, don't be resentful to them, but try to understand the interdependent of all those things. Don't think they defeated you or they cheated you. It's interdependent. You must have done something to instigate it. So that's true. And one has the humility to swallow, accept some, and not entirely think it's the other person's fault. Speak not just the truth, but speak gently, Not so much the truth is important, but gently and skillfully to sentient beings. Everybody is a sentient being, Don't think they are enemy, or don't think just think of them as sentient being. They call in Kadampa teaching Lord sentient beings. They don't say Lord Buddha so much. The Lord sentient being. One who have refuge in the Lord Buddha should see the sentient beings more important. You can speak to the Buddha, Samyak, Sambuddha, whatever you say. Just lip service. Buddha says, forget it. You're so speaking so nicely in front of me, but not to you. This. Buddha would be probably more impressed if you spoke kindly to the Lord sentient beings. In front of the Buddha, you recite the 100-syllable mantra. Oh, very impressive. We could be very impressed that we know all these prayers. But in front of the sentient beings, we don't know how to say even one kind words. So what would be the purpose of that? So that's what's speak gently to sentient beings. Sentient beings. Be of pleasant nature, Yeah, try to make yourself manifest and appear as pleasantly and conducively and appropriate to the particular person. Tailor what they might want to be happy by you, your nature, So just be at their service, so to speak. This is very hard for the king. I don't know. The king can be pleasant. King could be like that. Compelling, be pleasant and compelling, polite, and do not wish to defame. Don't try to put them down others. Don't try to pass remarks on their mistakes, and don't remark their mistakes to other people. This is very important. These days, danger. These days, they say, if there's somebody made mistake, just let everybody know, as the world will greatly benefit from it. Amazing kind of negative feeling, as if people think, let everybody know, then so that he has no face to show anyway. That kind of terrible. It's a poison. And he says here, do not wish to defame. Even the person has done something awful, but what's the benefit of you telling everybody else? We are creating just as enough negative karma by defaming somebody. We're not talking about legal. We're talking spirit. We're talking about morally speaking. If someone has done something morally wrong, but if we defame them, it's just also morally wrong. So on top of this, someone falling, we trample on them. What would be the benefit of it? But people don't realize. People don't realize that. They think there are lots of bad things can be stopped by doing that. But it doesn't. It doesn't stop. The whole intent is not that. The whole intent, even your intent is that, he says, speak skillfully. Not defaming is not a skillful one. People who defame others have completely alienated themselves. One thing they did, and then ever since that, they don't even know how to reconnect with any of those people affected by that, because then they realize, what have they done? They made themselves no-go area. They should completely alienated. So when Nagarjuna says, it's not question isn't so much about someone who's right or someone who's wrong. Only their karma will dictate them no matter where they go. Even if we never mention it, they will suffer the consequences, if that will make us happy. So what's the benefit of us defaming them? And then we will have chain on our neck for defaming them. It will get to us. people, of course, elsewhere he said, people who speak bad things about the people will be born with a very bad body odor. Bad body odor. And everything we experience, we have problems in this life, are a result of what we did. So wrongdoing of other people, it will already get them. You don't worry about it. If that brings some kind of satisfaction, you can rejoice that they are suffer. But of course we're not. So therefore, a practitioner should be polite and do not wish to defame, let alone not even wish to defame somebody. Not help somebody to defame. Not assist somebody to defame. Be independent. Be independent, meaning don't just listen to someone who says bad things, because if you do, you will be completely party to them. You quickly did exactly what you would. You really remain independent then, and speak well. This verse number 494 is all about minding your speech as a practitioner. Speech here doesn't mean just words. Voice also means these days in writing. You know, some people are very good at writing, but they never haven't written anything good that others will benefit. They're only good at writing problems. And what the consequences of that would be? It will gag themselves. Karma of some people have no voice when they're born. Why is that? Because they try to silence somebody by their own ill will. So this verse very much advises to mind one's own behavior, mindfulness really, and be well disciplined. Talking about physical behaviors, contained, meaning have some degree of ability to exercise restraint, restraining one's desire or possession or positions or things one has or things one hasn't, and be generous. Meaning, give if you practice giving. Be magnificent, of peaceful mind. Have a very peaceful mind, not excitable. Not excitable, but not easily excited by things. Have some degree of composure, and not procrastinating. These are now succinct, not deceitful, but amiable. Be gentle like a full moon. Be lustrous like the sun in the autumn. Be deep like an ocean. Be firm like Mount Sumeru. So these are four analogies there, condensing the mode of behavior that one actually conduct with others. Be gentle like full moon means, of course, when the moon is shining bright, it's not really penetratingly cooling at one spot and not others. It's everywhere. There's amazing, soothing, gentle light everywhere. So don't be so choppy here and very friendly in one moment and really not turning their sour face all of a sudden. Don't be like that. Have a universal, like a full moon is completely lustrous and full, giving the gentle beam to everyone. Even some difficult things, just don't mind it very much. It will change quickly. They do, Even things are very nice. Don't get too excited by things, Don't get so overly excited and don't act like nothing happening other than that. So there's a lot of things happening. So it's because you get excited, you get carried away, Be lustrous like the sun in the autumn. Talking about the penetration of the rays of the sun is so bright and so bright everywhere. Yeah. So have that kind of maturity. Deep like an ocean, have a very deep thinking mind. Ocean is very deep.
it might be have a lot of turbulence and tides on the surface. I mean, many things happening around it there. But just don't let that shake you too much. Be the deep ocean, with the deep ocean. Let there be some tidal waves on the surface, but deep ocean is very, very deep. And that's down at the bottom, completely still. Because you see the emptiness of it. I suppose you don't see the benefit of it. Engaging our emotions or with things too much. It's nature of samsara. They will be unsatisfactory for sure. Samsara, if it's the ocean, definitely have waves. That's what it's something like that. But shallow water doesn't have. So if there are problems, you should be even more stable, more firm like Mount Sumeru. Be firm like Mount Meru. No matter how big wind blows this way or that way. So this talking about, there's a lot of issue about people, powerful people. Powerful people they don't get to really know the real facts. They are always advised by people. They go like this, So, so very obvious. Some people have actually no first-hand knowledge. They only rely on the people nearest them, tell them, and they get so easily influenced by them, like that. So, king should be not like that. Should be firm like Mount Meru, not probably very particularly important positions one hold, and one has to. Sure. Some people say this out of jealousy. Some people say this out of some enmity. Some people say that too. Just whatever they have in mind, and do not let these things. That's the only thing there is to know. Freed from all defects and adorned with all good qualities. So this talking about the how one should defects has to be slowly curtailed and culled and stopped, and they will be then replaced by good qualities. The good qualities, good qualities become a sustenance of all sentient beings, because you are a king, so in our case, whoever there is, whatever people we have to deal with, whatever people we deal with, become a sustenance, be useful and a service and a benefit to others. So that it is only with sentient beings we can practice these things. So the sentient beings is your real objects with which you should test and assess your practice or lack of it. If with sentient beings you aren't being useful, then your practices is just a cultural kind of religious practice, religious practice, but actually. Sure, the religious behavior is necessary, but if that actual religious behavior is there, but it doesn't quite become user-friendly, useful with sentient beings, then what is it, Discriminate whatever reasons or something, and become omniscient. So meaning you get to know the unsatisfactory nature of all things, impermanence of all things. When you know this is omniscient, then you're not necessarily disappointable by something becoming like that, because you knew they are all unsatisfactory. So you knew that all right from the very beginning. Everything was unsatisfactory, so you don't get disappointed extraordinarily when you do find them unsatisfactory. So it's very useful, even though we don't have real omniscience, but Buddha said all things are unsatisfactory that are afflicted by emotions. So if anything is proving to be unsatisfactory, it's because afflicted emotions. Doesn't matter whose. If it's biting us, it's probably ours. So it's amazingly omniscient the way to think like that. And by the way, no matter how difficult it is impermanent. So don't worry too much. So it's another omniscient. These are truth. When you know the truth, it's omniscient.
when something comes and snaps and doesn't work, you're not disappointed. It doesn't come as a shock to you. Why? Because you knew that. You were made omniscient by the Buddha Dharma right from the very beginning. You took refuge in this security. And it says it will snap off unpredictably one day because everything is impermanent. It wouldn't say, it will last 50 years, but it may break before that. It's like that. Something might be made to last 50 years, but it may break in 20 years. So, no guarantee. Everything is there's real guarantee that everything may come at an abrupt end any time. And so that's real omniscient. Become omniscient. Yeah. If someone really turns their back to you and really does something, what you think. You don't think it's extraordinary. It's quite normal. This happens all the time and has happened before, will happen in the future. This is very little, actually. so that it is not a big kick for you. Because you knew it was coming. It was coming, Because when we are not so predisposed to the law of impermanence, we don't meditate on impermanence. We occasionally say, yeah. But when it really happens, we just shocked. We have never heard that before. Where is the knowledge of the impermanence? If you have knowledge of impermanence, you should be sustaining that knowledge. And then when things happen, you knew that, yes. So it's not a kind of a shock to your system because you knew that. You probably knew that was happening anyway. So or you're attached to some satisfactory things, the temporarily satisfactory things. You didn't know they will not last themselves. See, become omniscient. And there is no personal kind of a tragedy there. It's not fault of that either. It's not fault of you either. It's the nature of things. That's the truth. So therefore, it's not a question of who's right and who's wrong, or who's a culprit, who's a victim. There are no such things. It's amazingly liberating, really. That's the whole teaching of the impermanent is if one can really put a lot of thought into it, it's so true and so useful to think of that and apply that and everything and change ourselves. If we are a bit rigid and stuff, if it's sticky with something, we should also shift our position a little bit. And when we change a position, particular things are really tough and difficult, it is changing, no? Change your mind, change your life, they call it. Yeah, if you don't like the life that you're having, you would wonder why. Because you aren't changing your attitude. That's the problem. If you change your attitude, then there is no that difficult life that stay there stuck. Become omniscient. Omniscient doesn't mean know other people's past, know other people's future, remember his past life and tell him that's all you. I know what you're up to in the past life. Not that kind of, you nitpicking for the cause of nitpicking other people and think we are omniscient. Not reading people's mind, thinking we know people. These are not real omniscient they're talking about. Omniscient with this amazing sense of awareness at the universal truth. It's a universal truth, all that. Because if you are sustenance to sentient beings, then even somebody is really, really hard on you, how you can be sustained, you be patient and kind to them, then you are actually changing by them. You're changing by these changes, by this situation, with the teaching, because teaching is helping you to sustain your goodness, and then it exhausted your karma, it purified your negative karma, and then as a result of that, you didn't put a bigger obstacle, hindrance to this poor, pitiful sentient beings. Majority of them no refuge. They're completely dumbfounded. and they can't cope with life in general. So what is your role? You have refuge. I have refuge. So how then? We become sustenance for all sentient beings. We say, may meditation sustain all abundant. May the food of meditation sustain all sentient beings. Yes, of course. If it doesn't sustain us, we can't sustain anybody else. We can't. We are not feeding them unless we do it. If we do it, then we are exhausting their poor karma as well as ours, and we know exactly that we have to do. See, omniscient, we know exactly what we have to do. You will never sense a feeling, oh, I'm giving too much for this, it will be they don't deserve it. Never think like that. The more you give, better it is. More you give up or let go, even though samsarically, materially might be too much, but dharmically it's never a loss. It's a Lord sentient being you're serving, remember? You Lord sentient being you're serving. So it's a pleasure. and it really sustains you. It really empowers you to let go that other things doesn't. These doctrines were not just taught only for monarchs. Now, this is, Nagarjuna is well and truly aware that there will be many people who are non-monarchs who will read it, but were taught with the wish to help other sentient beings as befits them. So this talking about the Nagarjuna who wrote this to the king, he says, this is not just written for monarchs. If it's only for monarchs, we will send it to Buckingham Palace. and because it is for everybody, this Jeffrey Hopkins did this translation quite a long time ago. Poor man, he laments all of he laments often about what's the job of a translator is like. He put a lot of work, and he went to India. And of course, his Tibetan was okay, but not totally adequate. And then all the teachers never spoke any English, and so it took a long time, So so people like him gave their time, even though as an academic, it's still very diligent to give such time. I know exactly what it takes time to translate, or don't get to finish much. You don't get to finish satisfactorily to your liking, let alone to present to others. Very difficult, So therefore, lots of benefit, O king, it would be right for you each day to think about this advice. He says, there wouldn't be a single day that will be irrelevant if you thought about this. He says, every day you will say any of this advice, you think each day. You see their pertinence, relevance, and truthfulness, so that you and others may achieve complete and perfect enlightenment. Nagarjuna is so optimistic that this writing of his will be such a good thing for the king, just right for you, and so that it will be such a good thing to think each day. There isn't some one day, not other days you can't read it, or it's not relevant and it's too high or something like that. No, the teaching has something completely relevant to each day's life situations. So much so that your life's kind of challenges will not hinder you, but you will conquer. You will conquer that difficulties and ultimately achieve enlightenment. Is exhorting the king to pay heed to this advice, not something temporarily, but something to pay heed to daily. And you can see those kings, when they heard teachings like this from monks like Nagarjuna, they are the ones who devote all their royal resources to sponsor the Dharma stupas and temples that are, and even now, standing amazingly firm. like a Mount Sumeru. It's sitting there, and some of these kings, Satavahana kings, actually were sponsors of got many of the temples now in South India, and constantly inspiring other people, and never failed to inspire people and provide shelter and monasteries, a place for people to practice, and hence the even practitioners needs someone like King Gautama Buddha to provide, to give royal patronage. Like Buddhism in Tibet would have never spread had there been no royal patronage. It doesn't spread very well, actually, unless there's a big patronage. But Tibet being so far and remote, it couldn't reach early in the ministry, Say, 2nd century, 3rd century, 4th century would be like the peak of Buddhism. But those days, distance is very far. Distance is treacherously far. And people have to go all the way through sea or like that. They have to avoid mountain, Himalayas, Even the Chinese monk tried to go to India. He never dared to cross through the Himalayas. He went all the way to Silk Road. Can you believe it? Because that only way he can avoid these mountains, these gigantic mountains, too cold. And go this and come back all the way through sea, through Indonesia, all the way like this, because they couldn't dare going through those vast snowy lands. But those king and those people who did receive our patronage, then the Dharma becomes possible to establish, since nobody opposed it, since nobody intimidated it. Where there's no royal patronage, some might be interested, others try to intimidate you, others try to stifle what you're trying to do. If you make a smallest mistake, they try to just prove that as that. And there's so many hindrances in a Dharma, because of the volatility of the world itself, particularly if some countries have their own religion or anti-religion, if they feel threatened, of course, if there is no king, if there is no local authorities giving freedom of religion or practice, it wouldn't spread. It's got a lot of hindrances, a lot of obstacles. So it's very difficult to spread the Dharma, but because India is the land of the Dharma, but I don't think Buddhism was spread all over India even during Buddha's time. You can imagine why, because India is so big and so vast, and probably many principalities not even united under one king. Not India that we know anywhere now, because some of the southern kingdoms were really independent, and so on. And then it was carved by very powerful monarchs and Mughals and so on. Each of them have their own political or economic interests, very little spiritual. So spiritual monuments were all just should be desecrated and just destroyed, thinking that's your enemies. I don't think Buddhism had a real enemy, but because the Muslims invaded the central India, then everything on its way was destroyed. For the sake of enlightenment, aspirant should always apply themselves to discipline, supreme respect for teachers, patience, non-jealousy, miserliness. So this is talking about suitability of adopting the virtue. People who are aspiring these teachings should learn to apply these teachings to develop discipline if they lack one. If they have one, improve the quality of discipline. Even if their discipline is very good, to make sure the discipline become cause of happiness to others, not as a cause to sort of treat others with contempt and judge them and punish them. Supreme respect for teachers, have patience, and not jealousy, meaning not jealous to others. and without any mildness. Endowment with the wealth of altruism. Most important of all wealth is endowment of enlightenment. So it's the altruism. So that means how to conceive bodhicitta. Even you become really mindful of many meditation, but if there is all this mindfulness does not go to guard your altruism, then you haven't got really wealth. You're still poor, So if you have altruism, then you don't have to feel, crave or covet other things, because you have the wealth of all wealth, and you can practice altruism without needing to seek reward and compliment from others, and it will help all who are destitute and hungry for spiritual truth. It is one of the very panacea that every sentient being will find a resuscitation when they hear and heed to altruism. And therefore, the very pinnacle of these teachings is the teaching of altruism, the wealth of all wealth. So therefore, remaining with supreme people, leaving the non-supreme and thoroughly maintaining the doctrine. So this talking about Nagarjuna concluding with this verse, the importance of the bodhisattva's life or way is practicing bodhicitta. If one is able to have the wealth of altruism, even you lose some material wealth, even you lose things, even you lose other things, with the altruism you never will feel like an orphan, or if you feel like a childless person, or anything like. If you altruism, all sentient beings are your children. If with altruism you have all sentient beings, all Lord sentient beings are your children, your lovely sentient being, your lovely children. All lovely children, all sentient beings become lovely when you have bodhicitta. Even the difficult ones is even more lovelier because of the bodhicitta. Because you have the wealth, you have the material with which you can transform. And you don't want anything back. See, without seeking any reward, what you do to them. And helping the most destitute ones, most destitute one of happiness. Most people these days not destitute of things, really. They're destitute of a right mental constitution. And the teaching of the Dharma is such a food for thought. But it has to be really enticing enough people it makes them to think. But if the teaching is taught as a religion, people have to believe. You've got to believe it or not. Otherwise, you've been trouble. Blackmailing them. Then you try to religiously indoctrinate people. And that's why almost like intellectually sort of triggering people to think intelligibly and critically and rationally and logically. And if then the mental composition of what they know the Dharma, that is Dharma, will stay in their mind. It's the intelligence of the mind. It knows exactly what is good to keep, You don't even have to tell them they have to believe it. You tell them, get rid of it. You don't follow that. You go back to your own religion. That's what he told the Dalai Lama. We're not trying to convert anybody. Please go back to your religion. He said this also. People will naturally predisposing to these teachings. Why? Because it's a universal. It's so applicable. It is not threatening anybody else. It is wealth that is actually everybody is otherwise destitute. Without loving kindness, with altruism, everybody is destitute. Even if they believe in God or whatever, it's still destitute. Even though you live by some list of religious morals, but if you have no bodhicitta, it's a destitute, really. In the bodhicitta teaching, it says, ordinary worldly people put so much effort every day. They say it's a non-cause. They try so hard, but for no cause, because they're just doing it for mundane, worldly, materialist purposes. And from the spiritual point of view, there's no cause. Then others others, like the heretics, heretics are people who proponent of other religious beliefs, like believe in heaven or scaremongering people of the hell and make people to believe to get to heaven next life because if you follow us type of thing. So that's called a mistaken cause. Even if you can get them to do, the mistaken cause, only to promise them to heaven. They think it's somewhere high in the sky, but there's not a space up there that's pleasant. It's freezing cold. Higher you go, more freezing it is. So to make people believe so-called high in heaven is a really mistaken cause. And yet people do amazing practices in the name of that belief. Do ascetic practice, do extreme self-mortification practices. People do all sorts of things. So that's a mistaken cause. And then even among Buddhists who just do it for their own nirvana, so that they can practice very pure ethics, that they not eat a single grain of meal after midday, that they don't touch any money, or whatever, everything according to the Vinaya, even if they observe all of that, but still it's incomplete cause. just for themselves reaching nirvana. So with bodhicitta, it's an unmistaken and complete cause. Because you're not practicing for higher rebirth for yourself, or nirvana for yourself, or like that, or samsarically saying. But you are practicing for every moment. You have the wealth of bodhicitta, then it's not only unmistaken, but complete cause. Why? You're thinking of for the benefit of all sentient beings. You may not necessarily help all in one go, but your intent is for the sake of all sentient beings. Because of that, it's a complete cause. Your heart is yearning for every single sentient being for that. So that's why it's called unmistaken, complete cause. Because you can't even emphasize the result to get the result if you don't have the unmistaken, complete cause. Most of them are mistaken or incomplete, or just completely causeless, let's say pointless cause. Most samsaric activities are pointless cause. You might say, no, we need to eat or drink. So, yeah, but animals do that all the time without any study, without any education. They also have food, clothes, shelter, and somewhere to do. Why we have to study so much, do that? So all the effort people do just to make a mundane living is no cause, So it's nothing. All materialistic purposes are purposeless cause, other than to feed and clothe. The feed, clothe, even the most helpless animals do that. They can feed on the other creatures. See, they're doing very well. Whether just two hands or mouth, they just got only these tools, only the two hands, and like tigers or lions, they got just the mouth and two hands. The rest of the body is no use. Even with that, also they go and find food and something. So human beings trying to engage in that with great effort is a purposeless cause. So if it's purposeless cause, you have to do something purposeful cause. Yeah, even they think they are purposefully engaging, but most are engaging in a purpose that is mistaken purpose. And others, like the purpose, mistaken purposes. Even most religious tradition, or people even try to follow the current religion, but the attitude is wrong. Their attitude is to, like even Buddhists, among Buddhists, I can say this. No one is ethnically Buddhist. Yeah, you're all cognitive Buddhist. Cognitively geared Buddhist. So if there's traditional Buddhists, they all want to be born in heaven. They all want to be born in Sukhavati or some pure realm of some sort, According to the teaching I'm talking about, they're completely mistaken. They're mistaken purposes. They're only seeking some higher realm for themselves, which is really mistaken purposes. They don't realize it's not really high. Even if it's relatively high, it will fall down tumble down very quickly, and you have to start all over again. So even majority Buddhists are following this mistaken path. And others who seek, even within Buddhism, others who seek, these are people who think they're Buddhists, but they're not even Buddhists really by following that. They still want higher rebirth. It's just like no different from seeking heaven in other religions, isn't it? Higher rebirth is no different from heaven, because it's actually worse than heaven. At least higher rebirth, actually, you can fall down, but heaven, I think they don't fall down at all. Even among the Buddhists, even people think they're all Mahayanis or Vajrayanis. Most of them really wouldn't mind getting themselves ahead of others. So that is incomplete purpose. The purpose is okay, but not complete. So that's why altruism is the unmistaken and complete and purposeful purpose, which has a really hope and a benefit to help all sentient beings. That's Shri Bodhicitta. No more you help sentient beings, more you can help sentient beings. It's not some kind of a more you help, the less you have energy left over thing. Bodhicitta is more you practice, more it generates. So that's why this last verse concludes in that words. And it says here, this fifth chapter of the Precious Garland, how to practice Bodhisattva's deeds, is finished. This ends the Precious Garland of advice for a king by the great master Superior Nagarjuna. It was. So that was Nagarjuna. He lived in 2nd century AD. It was translated by the Indian professor Vidyakaraprabha. This is the Indian translator monk who come to Tibet, with the Tibetan translator and Peltzik. He's a very famous early translator. So that's that. So that is very early, and then later on, it was revised again. Consulting 3 Sanskrit editions. Later on, it was revised, consulting 3 Sanskrit editions. The Indian professor Kanakavarma and the Tibetan monastery Patsap Nyimata. Patsap Nyimata is 11th century. So 11th century, it went through another stringent revision of 3 Sanskrit texts and corrected the translation and other points that did not accord with the unique thought of the Nagarjuna. Because early time when people translate, maybe people's knowledge is like a little bit sort of, maybe the vocabulary and all those things were not quite standardized. It would be tall order to put all this Buddhist concept in a new language, isn't it? Be consistent. Right now, we have that problem in English. People translate so many different versions. Oh, they say use that word for that. They use for that. They're like for klesha, affliction. They use so many different words. Affliction, defilements, disturbing emotions, emotion instability, poisonous thoughts. So many different things, but difficult to standardize because you have to get all the definitions all in correctly translated. First you have to get the vocabulary correct, then have the definition correct, and then you have standard. So we are really nowhere near. We are only the first 30, 40 years of just teething Buddhism. No royal patronage, nobody, no royal patronage. It's just good that there is no opposition. Otherwise, it's a really very much based rely on goodwill of few handful people. Nagarjuna. It was printed at the great publishing house near Potala Palace. Yeah, this is talking about the wooden stylograph, big wooden stylograph in which these were printed in Tibet. Tibet. So. This there was other translation of this before Jeffrey Hopkins did, so he tells of them. So there definitely was. I think I'm also aware of them, but there wasn't. Not all of them was this well analyzed, because he gives a huge introductory chapter of the on what he relates to in relation to compassionate wisdom and advice for the lay person and traditional Buddhist teaching, advice for everyone. And so Professor Jeffrey Hopkins also goes into very difficult area of Nagarjuna's biography, and even says he lived 600 years. That's the traditional Tibetan belief is Nagarjuna came in 2nd century, because Buddha said after 400 years after I pass away, they will come. So that exactly okay. So timing of Nagarjuna is no problem, but how long he lived is a problem, because Tibetans think he lived 600 years. So that would the Tibetans usually add another zero. That's I think. They just like the zeros. They're like impressive. They say Shandarakshita lived 1,000 years too, 950 years. But of course, the dating system is very difficult. So, I will just read the first few verses in Tibetan, because that's what the text in, and also the first few last verses in Tibetan, just to give the blessings of this oral transmission. Gombolu Dujenza ba Jawola Damzare Mojito Jagar Gyodo Raza Bari Garataran Pegudu Jawola Damzare Mujin was Sanja Juzamala Zanzania Baguna Namroja Yende Gunji Yambabo Sanji Gunji Tamji Yambala Janza Jawa Jola Judu Jidu Give Tambichi Yenolana Chudum Jude Kanjila Gumbro Chening ever Lenjo Kanjungumbro Todone Rimje ever Legba Telangondo Dewa ever Legba Dog Evaleba Dog de Rubondo de Donna Dedan Shera Po. That's first 5 verses of the first chapter. Then we read another 5 from the second chapter. Chida Chujin Yalada Malachi the Shujana, Giamita Jivoka, Jejina, Chunum Dumji Damiji, the Javanam Jizon, come to the Gundameba, Chula Dena Baba, the Datan Dameba, and the Chishimizume, Dada Dame Dawada, the Jutuba Jimbo, Tonda Demizumba members or Cholim and Chojana, Teni Niga Dundami, Tedardambi Dungan, Jidin, Teni China. And that Yoje Meje Shame. That's the second chapter. The third chapter, few verses. Sonan Sanje Mejale, Jeda Sanje Sanjewa, Tewa Jemolonjela, Jawa Jenete, Ransa Jigun, Lodan Melo Legend, Jidemalo Son, Jidemalo Gonzona, Jidena Bamega, Tedam Junan Java, Babu Boga Jigude, Sanje Bogo, Tamje Tedandawa, Babu Boga Tamjene, Jebel, Sonam Gan, Tada Jan and Java, Pages Sambo Juja, Sonan Teni. Jawa Beja Samone, Chidar Denendo, Geju Badun Jun Wara Ju. So that was all about the 80 major marks of the fully enlightened one.
Now the third chapter. Kanja Soba Misoba, Shiva Java Javone, Chimeri Bamija, Jesus Javola, Pajatoba de Menda Mimi Jamraga, Regishan Rovala, Minya Java Jadana, Sajanga Jajola, Gilonda, Jimmy, Chuji, Chuji Jelada, Javala, Zelado, Jola Minimba, Dada Jibo, Devado, the Indigenous Giovanni, Zevedo Lomana, Jabra Jundus, Tedaven and Degejo, Temba Java Mebaye, Dembezina Davana, Treasure Sambu Junda, New Nizolemba. Yeah, that's now the fourth chapter. Then there are the Juma, Dambola, Barado, Sozo Tavan, Mandana, Bebe, then Evans, Chavez, Bamaja, Maju Javana, Beding Eva Dabaja, Travasim Juba, the Dungeon Java, Javain, and Java, and the Java in the body, Junan Java, Chato and then. So now don't enter by now the last 5 verses of the 5th chapter, I think. Dawa Deva, the Dungeon, the Gyaltsab Je, the Rapin, them, Nebakulan, Yundegun, Simjun, Yazo, Tamja Germany, Chuna Jawan Bajila, Dembakona Manget, Semjin Shena, Chiriba, Pember, David, Dembala, Dada Shena, Yandaba, Zobe, Janjo, Jebe, Jawa, Damdo Javan, the Damderi, Yamberi, Children give Lama Gogo, Zodan, the Yantadome, Zena, Tandereva, Mebra Generation. Pombrejula, Ponja, Jordan, Jovan, Yonzo, Zonga, Damjo, Yonzo, Janja, Dodo, Janjer, Bojan, Zembe, Jaba, the Leo, Den, Avazobo, Jawatama, Jejo, Lubanjo, Papa, Little Jinzabo, Jaggi Cambo, Vidia, Gara, Bujela, Bendelix, the Jujin, and Baba, Lady Cambo. Cambo, Shiri, Gana, Warma, Peggy Bende, Bazani, Madrujuna, and Papa Yabse, Gonda, and Mendumba, Juvala, Soviet, the Shoba, Zonam, the Damjezevania, Tomani, Vidana, Pomse, Gigana, Balando, Sever, Zola, and so now we will conclude this with the dedication merits. So thank you for everybody's participation. And so we will, of course, resume the next term and with a new topic. Will be full. It should be placed on the website already, and then we will do the dedication of merits. By the merit of these, may we attain the state of the nations, defeat every enemy's defilements, may I liberate all sentient beings from the samsara oceans, driven away with the birth, all the sickness and death. By listening to the excellent and precious mind and teaching, whatever boundaries may I have acquired, may all sentient beings become precious and stainless vessels to retain the excellent and precious mind and teaching. May the supreme precious Bodhicitta take birth, yet not done so, where it is born, may increase abundantly without degeneration.